Hello, I'm Dr. Margaret Ames, and you're listening to Your Dental Health. The mission of the show is to get the word out about biomimetic dentistry. Biomimetic dentistry is a major paradigm shift in dental care. I'm going to expand on that more in today's show and in shows ahead. My other mission is for you to experience more comfortable and less invasive and beautiful dentistry. I can be reached in my office at 631-261-4525. That's 631-261-4525. I'm a practicing dentist in the town of Huntington for well over 20 years. And 5 years ago, I learned about a better way to do dentistry. Nobel Prize winner Max Planck, who won the Nobel Prize in physics for his quantum theory, put this whole process of the evolution of new science into perspective. He said, "A new scientific truth does not triumph by convincing its opponents and making them see the light, but rather because its opponents eventually die and a new generation grows up that's familiar with it." Well, folks, I'm here to tell you about a 15-year-old technique that is still not being embraced by dental schools nor dentists in general. When I first investigated this new way, I knew from my many years of doing dentistry. Actually, I practiced first in East Harlem as a member of the United States Public Health Service. Then I started a practice downtown Manhattan. And when I had children, I decided that I wanted to raise them on Long Island. So I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot as a dental assistant and as a former dental hygienist. So I knew that this was the right way. It had merit. And I knew I had to master this technique fast because I could keep teeth alive and healthy. I could avoid root canals for my patients. I thought, I want to be the first on the block doing this. Dentists will be jumping all over this, and I want to be the first. Patients will be lining up outside our doors to have this great treatment. Sadly, my colleagues were not eager to change. Sadly, there's no big corporation to fund the education of consumers. But I'm here to tell you today, I save teeth. Using state-of-the-art materials in a way that acknowledges the flexing of the tooth and the polymerization shrinkage of the materials, I rebuild your tooth without unnecessarily amputating any of the good enamel and dentin just to make a crown fit. If you've been told you need a crown, I invite you for a second opinion. Call me at 631-261-4525. Once you get a crown or a cap, you can never go back. I have an exciting guest that will be joining me after the break, Hockey Hall of Famer Clark Gillies. He led the New York Islanders to 4 Stanley Cups, so stay tuned. But first I want to tell you about him as a musician, Dr. Peter Silver. He's a trumpet player for 44 years, and he's been a dentist for 26 years. He commented that being a performer involves dressing the part, whether it's all black in the pit or a tux or a black dress for a society gig. He goes on to say, a very important part of your appearance is your smile. As you get older, your teeth get yellower. If you are interested in changing the shade of your smile, if you're unhappy with lack of symmetry, a gummy smile, or discolored teeth, call my office at 631-261-4525. Or you can email me at drames@drames.com. That's DRAMES at DRAMES.com. If you call or email me today, I'll give you 50% off your new patient exam. Just say in your message or your email, I want to make an appointment. I heard about the 50% off the new patient exam today. A topic that's near and dear to my heart is air abrasion. I've had questions from inquiring minds, you listeners, about a topic that I love. Love it. I plan on devoting a whole show to this soon, but I promised I'd expand on it a bit today. In a previous show, I spoke of 3 types of failures of teeth. Biologic failure, where the germs get into the grooves. You really can't see them. Clinical failure, which is easily visible. That's what dentists do. They poke around, they look at x-rays, they look at the teeth. That's a clinical failure. But a clinical failure can go on to be a catastrophic failure. A catastrophic failure is when you need a root canal, or your tooth fractures below the gum line and it's not savable, or advanced gum disease. You've heard of pyorrhea or trench mouth from your grandparents. Well, air abrasion is great for biological failure and clinical failure. Catastrophic failure, not so much. It's a bit too late. Although we can incorporate biomimetic principles into the restoration, the fixing up of a tooth that has had root canal. It's just that it's sad to see that the tooth no longer has the circulation that it had before it had the root canal. Because when a tooth has a root canal, it loses its circulation. It has no more blood supply. It gets dry, and it fractures more easily. So back to air abrasion. I use sterile particles. If you rub them in your fingers, they feel like talcum powder. And I clean out the organic plugs in the grooves. So there's lots of times when you might have been told, or you might have been told about your children, that, oh, this groove, we're going to watch that because that could turn into something. So what are we watching it for? We're watching it to see if it gets a bigger hole. So the most common instrument used in air abrasion, and there's not many dentists that have this unit, it's a big investment, it's about 0.5 millimeter in diameter, much smaller than a drill bit. I use one that's actually 1/3 of a millimeter because I can save more tooth structure that way. Yep, 1/10 of a millimeter is important. If the germs are past the enamel and into dentin and the tooth needs a filling, I do a filling. That's way before those germs cause a clinical failure. And that's why early detection and treatment is important. It's big. Plus, the particles bounce off the healthy enamel and dentin, and they remove only the soft, infected tooth structure, preserving the web of supportive enamel below the surface. Then, if after removing the schmutz plug in the groove, I test the tooth with a laser, and if there's no decay, I put a sealant. If there is decay, I clean the tooth, and it's ready for a biomimetic restoration. If we're into serious clinical failure, and I have to use the drill, I always finish up with the air abrasion. It cleans the dentin so much that the bond strength is much stronger than your average filling, much more longer lasting. This is only one reason why my restorations outlast average, way outlast average. I never get up in the morning aspiring to be average. So here's how it looks when a 3-year-old comes in for treatment. Air abrasion powers away the decay or the plug of schmutz. If it's deep, I use an antibiotic in the tooth, and I use a mineral wash to help to remineralize the tooth. Then I place the fillings or the sealants, depending upon what the patient needs. It's a brief, needle-free, relaxed visit for the child. Compared to stainless steel crowns or putting the child to sleep, the child's perception of a trip to the dentist is imprinted on him for life. So you can reach me. If you just tuned in, you're listening to Your Dental Health. I'm Dr. Margaret Ames. You can reach me at 631-261-4525. That's 631-4525. In the second half of the show, we're going to be talking to Hockey Hall of Famer Clark Gillies. Please stay tuned. So some of you have asked different questions about what goes on in a dental office. Like, why is an amalgam or silver filling invasive or amputational? Well, silver, if you can imagine, silver is it's a metal, and if it's really thin, it'll break. So in traditional 20th century dentistry, the dentist has to drill really deep to make the block of amalgam so strong that it'll resist your chewing forces. Chewing forces are amazing. They're measurable, and they're measured by scientists who do the research on this stuff. And if you look at somebody who has very strong jaws, strong jaw muscles, their cheeks are kind of well developed. It looks like they go to the gym. Well, they go to the gym at night when they're clenching their teeth. So an amalgam restoration isn't bonded in. It can be, but it's not the same as a regular bonded restoration. It's invasive because you have to cut away parts of the tooth that are healthy, and you have to cut it deep enough so that the silver filling is strong enough. So you need to, and it's put in a block, and it contains mercury. If you look at a thermometer, the old-fashioned kind of thermometers before we had digital, you can see that when your body temperature goes up to 98.6 or 102, hopefully not, that the mercury expands and it goes up the column inside the thermometer. There's the proof that the mercury is expanding with heat. Well, we drink coffee, we eat ice cream, and when the tooth expands, it expands at a different rate than the amalgam restoration. Also, a crown. So you want the tooth and the restoration to expand together. Otherwise, there's a percolation of bacteria underneath the filling that can't be detected with x-rays or visually. It can only be detected when you're feeling sensitivity to cold or hot or vague pain. So Thank you for listening. You've been listening to Dr. Margaret Ames at Your Dental Health. Please stay tuned. I'm talking to you about biomimetic dentistry and about minimally invasive, less amputational dentistry. I'm happy to say that I'm having Clark Gillies here for the second half of the show. He's a friend and a client, and he has a good joke that he told me on Thursday that I asked him to retell. So stay tuned, and I'll see you after the break.
Yes, I do. And when you give me that pretty little pout, it turns me inside out. There's something about you, baby, I don't know.